For so many brands, the core conduit to retailers isn't necessarily their distribution network or even their own sales force. It's that set of brokers who make chain calls, work as their brand emissaries, and try to get wins for their clients and for themselves. In many ways, the information you get from your broker is going to be your scouting report on your potential retailer relationships and a statement of your ongoing retail relationships. So what we've decided to do is pull together 3 very high-profile career brokers to help us understand developments in some of the most important retail channels out there, to help us fill in this picture that we started setting up with the co-ops and continued with Walmart. There's a lot of space in between, and we brought in these folks from channels from specialty and conventional supermarkets to convenience, Target, Walmart, and even Amazon. Between the 3 of them, we do indeed get representation of the omnichannel environment, and they're here to be sort of our correspondents regarding some of the key developments that growing brands need to understand at retailing. Joining us, we have Tracy Miedema, who's the Vice President of Innovation and Brand Development at Presence Marketing, Tregg Brown, the Chief Sales Officer at Team Direct Management, and TJ Varecka, a Principal at KMG Group. Hi.
Hey, good morning.
So what I want to do to start off, and I hope everyone's having a great day, is have y'all talk a little bit about your companies and what the key developments are in the channels that they cover that you think are having the most impact on entrepreneurial brands. So we'll start with Tracy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tracy Miedema. I work with Presence Marketing. We're the nation's largest broker of natural and organic products. And for 30 years now, those are the only kinds of products that we've represented in the marketplace. We started out just servicing the natural channel, but about 15 years ago, as consumers really flocked to the conventional channel to buy their natural and organic, our business evolved in that direction too. So we have about 500 employees. We canvass the entire U.S. and just really thrilled to be here with everybody today.
Would you say that the move into conventional of natural and organic products is what's the biggest impact right now?
I mean, that's a tide change that's happened over the last couple decades, and we certainly evolved our business model to service conventional. You know, even just 10 years ago, it was more like 25% of that commerce was flowing through conventional. Now it's about 65%. And those numbers are just going to keep evolving as consumers want to find the products that are tailored to their particular needs where they shop.
All right. Tregg, tell us about what y'all do at Team Direct.
Okay, so Tregg Brown with Team Direct Management. We have been on the ground for over 15 years in Northwest Arkansas. We actually work with Walmart and Sam's Club in every category currently, with specializing in emerging brands and specialty foods represented here today. We are the largest boutique agency in Northwest Arkansas with over 55 people on the ground, and we just live and breathe Walmart and Sam's Club and the omni-channel with both Jet and San Bruno every day. I probably now, of the 3 of us, have the easiest job up here because you had Walmart come before me and they kind of demoed like the 3 things that we really have seen as a major difference at Walmart over the last 2 to 3 years.
All right. Can you give us a status report of how well it's working in there?
You know what? It's working exceptionally well. If you think about where Walmart was about 3 or 4 years ago, I think people were afraid to come to them, and emerging brands thought of Walmart as the last place you would want to come, and some of the myths that Sarah and Laura showed up there were actually true. And so you saw from the team today that Walmart is much more open to working with emerging brands and realize that it's different than working with the large CPG. So they have been great partners. We've actually partnered with them and hosted a couple of emerging brand summits in Northwest Arkansas that has really been able to break that myth and allowed emerging brands to understand that Walmart is just people. They're good people, and they're mission-based, just like the brands are. So we've been able to break down a lot of the barriers, which we think has helped accelerate the adoption of the emerging brands in the Walmart space. And Walmart is doing nice things in terms of having reduced criteria for the brands. They're not holding us to the same standards that they might have a large CPG. They are much more patient. They're very transparent. They will allow you to go in a smaller set of stores. And as long as you're very transparent up front of where you think you need to be, how many doors, where you think you can be the most successful, they are a wonderful partner and very accommodating.
All right. TJ.
Good morning. First of all, honored to be on stage with Tracy and Tregg. You mentioned, I think, industry icons. These two are obviously have had great careers and really charted some of the kind of the brokerage best practices. I'm at KMG Group. We have offices in Minneapolis and Bentonville. And really, you know, our thesis is that no longer does the mass channel have to be the last piece of the puzzle. I was talking with Mary before coming up here, and you're seeing brands like Skinny Dip launch chain-wide at Target, brands like Clio launch chain-wide at Walmart, and be very successful. And the formula used to be, get into Whole Foods, either in a couple regions there, and then go global, get into kind of a best-in-class conventional in H-E-B or a Wegmans or Publix, and then once you've kind of pressure tested the concept and the brand, then approach a mass retailer like Walmart and Target. And I think that paradigm's changing. It's exciting to hear from Sarah and Laura this morning on just how they are being more flexible. And I think you're seeing that from both Target and Walmart. And they really need to be flexible to help facilitate and bring the brands along, but they also don't want to get a bad reputation. I mean, if you fail with some of these brands, it's a very highly connected community, and that word gets out that they're less than easy to work with.
All right. Talk about where things are with Target right now a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they came out and they had their best comps in 15 years, and so I think that they are doing some really good things with the omnichannel experience. Their big initiatives are really allowing their guests to purchase and decide where to purchase on their own terms. So a lot of emphasis on click and pick up, ship from store. I think both Target and Walmart now have this very defensible strategy on being able to ship from their store locations. So Target's got 1,800 mini DCs that are shipping next day, same day to the guests, and really has taken a lot of the costs out of the distribution model. And so I was saying that to a few of the brands this morning, you can feel it when you walk through certain parts of Target, there's a lot of optimism back. I think even though they've dissolved some of their Made to Matter program, there's still this emphasis on bringing emerging brands in and curating them at the department level, and you have some really smart and savvy buyers there.
Why didn't Made to Matter work so well?
Why did it work so well?
Did it not work so well?
Well, it ran its course. It was a tremendously successful program for a number of brands like Justin's and Kind Bar for 3 years, and I think what happened was it was a difficult effort to repeat it, to continue to repeat every single year. We got to know that team very well, and I think the reason why it eventually dissolved was it was a messaging issue. When you said to the consumer or the guest, Made to Matter, consumers said, what does that mean? Is it better packaging? Is it better product? Are you taking sugar out of it? And so I think it eventually it ran its course. It ran for 3 years, was very successful for a number of brands that were able to scale and get access to resources that they may not have had access to. And so I think you'll see something like that reincarnate. You're seeing it both at Walmart and Target as well.
Across these other classes of trade, these kind of curtain raisers on new products? I mean, do they have to be through that sort of program, or is it becoming more standardized that they're going to see innovative products in the set?
Yes, so in the area of deep nutrition, that's where we especially see this kind of tribal thinking amongst consumers, where they are seeking out products that meet really specific nutritional needs, and an open-mindedness amongst retailers across the board, because these are very lucrative customers. And if you can bring them into the store for, kind of a captive audience for those deep nutritional products, then you may have some loyalty to keep them. Almost all shoppers shop at multiple locations. Whole Foods is very trained within their zip codes, how do we pull in more volume from the other retailers within our sphere of influence? Deep nutrition seems to be an area that's very influential. The natural channel is, of course, still a really beautiful place to incubate deep nutrition products. If you just think about the foot traffic, 100 consumers walking through the store, there's a certain number of them that are going to be seeking collagen or a high, healthy, saturated fat, ketogenic style product. That percentage of shoppers is going to be lower that are seeking those types of products than conventional. These are basics. The omnichannel is a tremendous place for naturalizing these styles of products, because you don't have to wait for the wave of consumers to walk by, hopefully sift out those who are interested. Instead, that tribe actually comes and seeks you in an area of unlimited shelf space. So, this is all happening very much in real time. The conversation last year looks a little different than this year. But we're seeing brands that are coming from out of nowhere, posting $5-10 million worth of commerce in their first 18 months, purely omni-channel, and then backfilling with a kind of a quasi both natural and conventional strategy at the same time, and being very, very successful, and a lot of receptivity. Stores like call it very core natural stores used to kind of punish you if you started out in these other places. It was come supplicate thyself at this throne first. I won't name any names whatsoever, but we want to see your products first. And that model's really changing, where there's an openness to multiple venues for product launch.
Do you think it's possible to debut in Whole Foods and Walmart simultaneously, though, particularly given the emphasis that they've always had on exclusives at Whole Foods?
It's a careful pursuit. The pricing has to be very carefully attended to. Perhaps even a regional strategy so that you're not kind of overexposed. Retail's expensive. You're going to be spending a lot on the free fill cases and getting that whole model set up, intensive promotional activity in year one. And, if they're in a world of unlimited cash, yes, you would push out everywhere, but it's a careful pursuit.
I think there's a difference between omni-channel and sort of curated channel planning, though, and deciding, you can either go everywhere at once, or you can say, my channel mix is online, and then I'm moving into certain classes of trade.
Yeah, well, I would tell you, we have a philosophy that all roads eventually lead to Bentonville, but not everybody takes necessarily the same path to get to Bentonville. Some people take a more scenic tour, and some people come via the expressway, right? So there's not one size that fits all. I think the most important thing that we see in working with the emerging brands, and if we can get with them early enough, is really as soon as you can, because eventually you're going to want to have this dialogue with Walmart. Decide as early as you possibly can what you want to look like at Walmart. What would your SKU count look like? And ideally, what do you want your retail price point to be at Walmart? Because Walmart is EDLP, and we don't apologize for being EDLP. That's what we stand for our customers. But so that you don't have sticker shock when you get there, is effectively manage your trade spend, your frequency, and your depth of discount on this journey down to Walmart, so that you're managing your ARP, because your average retail price is what we're going to benchmark against and not your everyday shelf price. So have control of that, knowing that Walmart's going to want to be 10 to 15% below that ARP when you get there. And so effectively manage and plan for success at Walmart months, if not years, in advance. And I got to tell you, it's a great place to be when you get there and you've thought through it clearly.
Can you work on a parallel path? Or not just...
Yeah, I think you can. To your point, you can work on a parallel path, and I would say it's less a parallel path, and it's more of having a very effective channel strategy, right? I think at the core, your brand has to resonate with customers every day in every channel in which you put your brand in. What you really should be leveraging those retail tactics that each different channel may provide you is a way to drive trial and be an enhancement, but it can't be a disproportionate share of how you drive your velocity. So I think if you have a clear channel strategy that allows each retailer to do what it does best, then I think you can absolutely be in more than one place at one time.
But should that clear retailer strategy always take Walmart into consideration?
I think you have to. I think you can play high-low in some of these classes of trade, and Walmart's very sophisticated on how they look at the data, their percent beat, the ASP out in the market, and so I think Tregg said it very well. I think you have to have an understanding of what each of those channels. I think, as Tracy said, the e-com gives you very quick access to the voice of the customer. You can innovate. You can certainly do different things with pack sizes. So there's a great role for that. The conventional kind of grocery network, I think, allows you to get some regional sensitivity. There might be, based on distribution, some supply chain efficiencies there. And then as you scale into the mass setting, you really have to be ready to handle the supply chain. There are some stores, and we heard Laura say this morning, and Target's the same way. Like, there are 800 Target stores that do very well with emerging brands. It's their high health and wellness stores, but there's still another 1,000 stores you have to consider if you go chain wide. And so I think there's this responsibility to get good guidance on making sure you can scale. I think the other thing that is implicit what Tregg is saying is that you have to think about where you grow the next year. So like, how do you put something in place in 2019 that you can then annualize and then run a mature business, a comp business that following year, so that it's not just, you don't max out one year and then have to retrench, because that's really difficult story for investors, really difficult story for your retail partners when they see syndicated data going in the wrong direction.
So is the term here retailer management? Is that what we should expect from our brokers, and how do we encourage that?
Velocity is still king, and if you're not testing that out and building your retail strategy around where consumers are going to pull that product off the shelf, then you don't really have a retail strategy. Spreading yourself really thin in an again, expensive manner and having products sit on shelf is a very dangerous strategy. A lot of times brands they just, get me out there, come on, get me out there. And if you don't also have that matching consumer pull strategy ready to create the velocity, then you can find yourself not getting another bite at the apple, if you will. That retailer will have felt like, gosh, I gave you a try, and you kind of sat on shelf, and maybe you have a wonderful product, but consumers haven't found you yet. Maybe it was a little ahead of its time. So making sure that any place you push into, that the pursuit is flying off the shelf, at least equal, maybe more, than trying to gain those spots on the shelf.
How often are each of you telling brands that they're not ready to push into different areas, particularly knowing how important velocity is for brand growth right now?
It's important that we have that honest conversation with them. I do like what Target's done with carving out their high health and wellness stores in a smaller percentage of stores. Even hearing Laura and Sarah this morning talk about you can launch in 10 stores at Walmart. So that's a different pace that you can go at. You can gauge the productivity, as Tracy said. And so I think you're finding retailers more open to the smaller tests. But you have to be productive. You have to be profitable for the retailer. You have to be able to meet the supply chain expectations. And so And I think there's also this expectation for brands, if they are launching in the mass channel first, that they are that they're relevant. You hear about the kind of this thin slice of these trends, and so there's some that are going to be very relevant 3 years from now. There might be some that are gone. I heard a great one of the buyers we were at the other day say, keto today is kind of a front of the pack icon. It could be a back of the pack icon, back of the package icon 3 years from now. But take advantage of that now while it's top of mind for the customer and the consumer, and then maybe in the following years it's not so relevant. So I think it's really incumbent on us to help our brands understand what the retailers' hot buttons are, what the obviously the timing and some of the resources are as well. But ultimately, it's about productivity.
How incumbent on the broker is it, though, to say, this is good now, and you're going to need to evolve it this way in the future to really achieve growth?
Well, I think, one of the reasons we called ourselves Team Direct is that we're very direct with our clients in that, and it kind of fits our compensation model because we only invoice our clients on product once it goes through the register. So our whole mentality is we don't get paid unless it goes through the register. So we're going to be really direct on if there's packaging needs, pricing needs, sizing needs. Do you have enough social media to drive the brand and awareness? So we have those conversations all of the time. Because what you'll find, and you guys know, in other classes of trade, there might be more ability to get off shelf and to do deep discounting and do 10%, buy one, get one free, twofers. In Walmart, you have to win on the shelf. 93 to 95% of all of our volume at Walmart, regardless of the category, comes from the side counter. The customer has about 3 to 5 seconds to make a decision on your product. So when you're thinking about coming here and we need you to be ready, you need to have disruptive package and distinctive package that they can get in a matter of seconds that clearly communicates the benefits of your product, and hopefully that they discover it based on the awareness you have driven around your brand so that they recognize you on the shelf, and we drive trial immediately as soon as they discovered that now it's at Walmart and oh my gosh, it's at a great value. That's a wonderful combination for us.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest shifts that's happened in the brokerage profession, if you will. When there were far fewer brands, your job was to get out there and sell. Set it up in the distributor, push it out to retail, be the connective tissue between the back door of the manufacturer and the moment a consumer picks it up. Now that there are thousands of new brands coming to market all the time, a big part of our role is curating the absolute brands, coaching, optimizing the concept, making sure it tastes great. That's, as somebody who tastes about 100 brands a month, I'm surprised at how many well-funded concepts, just still don't taste good. And there's a lot of variability there that's expected if you're, say, very sweet Reed's ginger soda versus a non-nutritive sweetener. And consumers have different expectations. So I don't mean to make it sound like everything should be hot fudge sundae, but that's still king. And our job
It is.
It works really well at Walmart.
Taste is king.
Yeah, and our job, a big part of our role now, it all happens at the front end to make sure we're selecting the best brands that are going to turn. We're optimizing them from a packaging and product perspective, size, price, and then we're coaching them along the way. We love to see products when they are in their infancy. It's really hard when our brands come to us and they have a whole new lineup. They're just about to hit the go button on a 10,000 case run, and it's like, you really should have come to us 6 months ago, and we could have had a few things off the pass. So just from the perspective of getting to see a lot, a simple edit could have really optimized the concept.
So you brought up well-funded brands, and I think it was TJ who brought up Skinny Dip and Clio, both of which are brands that have had institutional money in. I mean, this sort of go fast strategy with funding behind it, how important is that to an omni-channel approach?
I think picking the right equity partner is critical. I think there are a lot of options out there. Capital's relatively cheap right now, and so I think that emerging brands have the ability to go out there and canvas and understand who are the right partners. It's not just about the money; it's about the expertise. It's about filling in. Jane mentioned earlier, VMG is a great private equity group that will help plug in holes along with their executive team, and so it's really. And I also think that you're increasingly seeing companies hold off on taking large pieces of capital in until they can really prove their concept and feel like they can have tighter control of the development of the product. But I think it's, that once the equity is in, then there's typically some sort of stopwatch that starts and says, how long is it going to take for us to scale the brand?
Yeah, I say bootstrap to the max and, stay in that leadership role so that the clarity of your vision as a founder really is cemented into what the brand stands for before a lot of outside influence can get a hold. And you're going to want that assistance and crafting and shaping of your concept, but get it cemented and dialed in first with that founding vision.
Across all your channels of trade, what's the dream product you think your retailers want?
Collagen with CBD and anti-aging. In a protein ball. Yeah.
In a steak, right?
Yes. No, a hot fudge sundae.
And a hot fudge.
That would be
tasting like hot fudge sundae.
For $2.99.
Yeah. At 40 points of margin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seriously though,
that's pretty serious.
because what do you think Walmart would jump on right now?
I think Walmart is just continually looking to be, as much as possible, leading edge on the trend. And I think what we find is brands that have really proven themselves and created scale that Walmart can lean into quickly and make a splash with, and it be a critical piece of business that really matters to Walmart because we can launch this in 3,000 or 3,500 doors versus 10 or 20 doors. Those don't come along often. And the more of those that we can have, I think really makes a difference in the financials.
What about in the conventional grocery set? What's the natural brand that they're dying for? So
we get excited when there's pent-up demand and there's not enough of fill in the blank. And I'll give an example. The wall of energy bars are generally very carbohydrate heavy, very mature, a lot of similarities, and brands that are highly disruptive with novel nutritional profiles are being sought after. It's massive business, and the general nutritional profile, I mean, we only eat carbohydrates, fats, and protein. That's all any of us ever eat. And we've had this foundation of carbohydrates, and that category is a manifestation of that. So products that come in and can be truly disruptive, it's like pricking a bubble and watching the demand meet up with that new supply. And I saw that in the fall with certain bars that had become disruptive. They look like wild animals had come in and torn those boxes apart in a wall of energy bars that were all perfectly set up. Those that had saturated fat just were rifled. So that's pretty neat to see.
So you mentioned CBD, and we have a minute 5 seconds. In all your channels of trade, are they all jumping on this? Do they all want to see products that are using CBD, or is it just the occasional Wegmans?
I'll give you 15 seconds on what Target's doing. Target sent out an RFI, and I think they're going to tread slowly. I think they're going to watch what the market does, and they'll pick off certain more favorable marketplaces or markets around the country to test it in as soon as this fall.
And do they want to test it via food?
Well, the topicals are the least debatable right now. So I think that would be where you start, and then ingestibles at some point over the next 12 months.
And I think at Walmart, there's a high degree of interest in CBD across every category. But I think we will be slow and methodical and be driven more by the FDA decisions, especially in ingestibles.
All right. And
I'd go so far as to say everyone is interested, and those who are jumping in have a higher risk tolerance and probably don't have the challenges of being interstate and having locations in our 15 or so problem child states right now. So there's sort of a separation of who can tolerate the risk and who's answering to boards and has concern in that area. But I believe there will come a day. This is too big to fail. There's a genuine value for humankind in the 104 cannabinoids in the hemp plant. And so it's here to stay, and retail will come along.
All right. Well, we have to get along. So thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Good job.
Jeff.